Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Jenna Banks Show, where you'll get tips, tools, and expert advice to help you live life to your full potential. Today, we're going to be talking all things confidence, and we couldn't have anyone better to talk about this on the show today than Lisa Thompson. Lisa Thompson is the host of the Confident podcast, which has been helping people with their confidence game for more than 3 years now. She's the co-founder of Blue Wave Wellbeing, which is a company that provides coaching services and workshops to businesses and their employees, both in person as well as virtually. And she is also the executive director and the founder of a 501(c) nonprofit called Selflove Beauty. They educate, invest, and impact individuals on the importance of self-love and confidence in order to empower them to be the very best version of themselves. Lisa and I happen to be involved as well in business because her nonprofit, Selflove Beauty, is our charity partner for the company that I started with my partner, Amber Love. It's called Tiger Feather. So I wanted to talk about confidence today because confidence is one of those things that can change your life completely if you have it. And if you don't have it, it could be a major detriment. You know, my own personal confidence journey, I have to say, I got very lucky in that I had a really great leg up when I was a young person first entering the workforce. I remember going for my first job. It was a fast food job. I got a piece of advice that really set me up for success for my entire life, I feel like, because I learned how to approach interviewing the right way the very first time. I was able to take that on for my entire career and probably had a lot more confidence knowing that that confidence that I would go into an interview with would actually make or break me getting the job, more so than my resume, more so than answers to the question. It really was my confidence in my abilities. And so I'll tell you the story of how that came to be. So I remember I was 14 years old and I applied to work at a fast food restaurant, and I was really excited to get this first job. Let me tell you, I wanted out of my house as much as I could. And I wanted to earn my own money and I wanted the freedom. And I lived in a very sheltered home environment. So just having that freedom that working in a job would give me, along with having my own money, was just something I really, really wanted. So I went to apply for this job, and lo and behold, I got the interview. So I remember my dad driving me to the interview, and I was really nervous, as I'm sure anybody would. In fact, a lot of us are nervous going to enter any interview these days, no matter if it's our first interview or our 100th. But for me, I remember asking my father, hey, like, what do I do? What do I say? How should I approach this? And I remember my father saying, you know, he acted like it wasn't a big deal. So he said, Jenna, just when you go in there, look them straight in the eye, give a smile, and shake their hand really firmly and introduce yourself. And if they say something about your lack of experience, just tell them that you're confident that you can get the job done. It really came down to feeling confident. I'll just follow what my dad said and I'll get the job. And guess what? I did get the job. And you know what? I was actually underage at the time, being 14. The law where I was living was you needed to be 15. So it's amazing that I ended up getting that job. I must have really given a really good impression at that young age. But the good news for me was that it taught me the power of confidence over anything. So I took that confidence going forward into any interview. I thought, wow, you know what? I could get any job if I really just go for it. I believe in myself. I'm confident in myself. And if I got the interview, I usually nailed the job. So that goes to show you that confidence really does play an important role in getting a job, but it also plays an important role in many other areas of our life. And I can't wait to dive into this topic a little bit more in detail with Lisa today. Lisa, welcome to the show today. So nice to have you here.
Thanks so much for having me. This is going to be fun.
I wanted to start off with a question related to confidence. First off, I want to let everyone know you have a wonderful podcast called the Confident Podcast.
Yes.
How long ago did you start that?
Yeah, so I started my podcast about 3 years ago. It was in that starting point when podcasts were just becoming popular. We've grown so much. So from my first episode to I think we're, in the 90s right now. It's been pretty awesome to see the growth with that.
Wow, 3 years. That's amazing. Just out of curiosity from one podcaster to another, since I'm new at it, how does it feel doing it now? 3 years later, do you feel like you have just as much material today as you did back then?
Yeah, I actually think I'm more comfortable than what I was 3 years ago. I'm more open to sharing my story. I've always shared it through the avenue of a blog, but since it's a podcast, people can listen to it in their car. Like it's a whole new avenue of sharing your story and having your voice be heard. So to answer your question, it's still the exact same excitement. And I think one of the things that I really appreciate about self-love, confidence, self-care, all those great learning skills is that it's becoming more important to people. People are finally starting to see the importance of it. And so I think that that's the exciting thing about having a podcast about it is I get to be part of that journey with other individuals.
Interesting. So you see currently that confidence is more in the mindset of people than before when you started?
Oh my gosh, so much. So even before the podcast, I have been running Selflove Beauty, a nonprofit, since 2012, but we started as a blog. And so for me, I was in this new space of what is self-love? Why is it important? No one understood why it was even a thing. And so now it's been pretty cool to see people now be like, okay, how do I help myself? How do I focus on my self-care? And really starting to take a hold of that and help themselves. So yeah, I've seen a huge shift and it's been super awesome.
So that's interesting. You bring up the point of self-love. And I know you started off as a blog, right?
Yes, I did.
And it was the Selflove Beauty blog?
Yep, it was Selflove Beauty. So I started that when I was 20 years old. Well, 21. I started when I was 21. I'm 31 years old. So it'll be 10 years, which is so crazy to say. But yeah, I've been talking about this topic for the last 10 years. And it's one of those things where you hear a lot about people being the early adapters and people just like shunning them. I totally felt that in so many ways. I really remember that. And so it's been really nice to finally be taken more seriously and not just be the flavor of the week, but for people to really understand that self-love and confidence are needed in all aspects of our lives and in all generations. It's not just the youth that are so fun to like work with. It's college students, it's adults, it's myself, and it's you. It's all of us that need this guidance.
Constant. I am a constant work in progress, and I'm older than you are, and I still have work in that regard to do, more so on the side of self-love. I would say it's, even though that's an area I'm focused on, and I'm writing a book about it, and I would probably, most of my friends would say that I'm one of the people that stands out for them when it comes to self-love, that I exemplify self-love well. And yet even at that, I realize how much further I have to go, how much deprogramming I've got yet to do, because it comes down to how I was programmed and conditioned as a woman, in particular, to not love myself, all the ways in which I did not love myself. And so that is something that is a constant journey, a constant practice. And especially if you have a traumatic background, as I do, and as many others do, I feel like you're constantly coming up against that old conditioning and programming and having to make a conscious effort to love yourself.
Absolutely. And I see it all the time in everything that I do. And and I always just remind people like that think that their traumas are lower than other traumas. Trauma is a trauma. And there obviously are rankings of them. But when you experience something that now will trigger you as an adult and it relates back to your self-love and confidence, I just want the audience to know, like, validate that for yourself. Because I think a lot of times we put things under the rug because we hear someone else have a bigger trauma than us. And we're like, oh, well, mine's not as bad, so I shouldn't be complaining. It's okay. You still have to take care of your own traumas. And I think that that's a constant battle that people face of mine's not as bad as someone else's. Well, at the end of the day, a trauma is a trauma. You're getting triggered. You're probably having anxiety. You're probably lacking confidence. And so I just always tell people, like, you need to validate that first, because if you continue to put everything under the rug, you're going to have multiple traumas under that rug. And you need to address it so that you can move forward. Kind of like you said, like addressing things, adding that confidence back into your life. And you brought up something else that I just wanted to say really quick too, is this, like, as we get older, we're evolving, we're trying to find ourselves. And you said something that really clicked with me about the, we have to help each other. So I see a lot of times that, we're both empowering women, we're helping other women grow. But there's a lot of women that still aren't. And I really just want to emphasize again, if you're ever feeling like jealous or you're pushing a woman away or you're not lifting someone up, I just want you to do a reality check with yourself, because when we bring down someone, it actually really affects their confidence. And I don't think we realize how bad one aspect of us doing that can really affect them. And it's because, we don't think much of it. When we're not lifting each other up, we're just like, maybe I just had a bad day, I'm going to hurt everybody's feelings. But really, you don't know that stage that person was in before they saw you or ran into you. And so I just always tell people, like, it's okay to have bad days, 100% about it, but bringing other people down along the way really isn't what, as an evolving society, what we should be about.
So I'm just curious to know, so you went down this self-love path and then you created a podcast called the Confident Podcast. What made you decide to focus in on confidence?
Yeah, so great question. I think for me, confidence and self-love go hand in hand in a variety of different ways, but they're very different in multiple ways too. I think for me, confidence just continued to be something that I was going through at the time that I started my podcast. I was lacking confidence in who I was. I wanted to ask for a raise. I didn't have confidence in my skills and my talents to do that. Even though, I was growing in my self-love journey, there were still moments where I was struggling. And so confidence to me is all being very focused on believing in your abilities. It's all about your skills and your talents and believing in that stuff. And I think when I was in my 20s, I really struggled with that. And I think there's a lot of people, no matter what age you're in, but we struggle with it. We struggle to apply for the jobs because we don't think we're equipped enough. We don't have the confidence to ask the guy out that we might have a crush on, or we don't even have the confidence in what we bring to the table to join a new group of friends or go after a certain, community role or follow our dreams. And so for me, that was really big for people to understand, like, self-love is about loving yourself, but confidence is the aspect of having more, believing in your skills and talents and fighting after it. So I think for me, I just was seeing a huge gap there across all generations, and I knew that I needed to change it.
That is amazing. So something you said really just made me want to ask this question, probably because it's something I am struggling with myself in getting over the confidence hump when it comes to asking a guy out that I might be interested in. That's something I've never learned the skill to do. And I think it does come down to confidence. There's two sides. There's like one side of me that says, well, I think it's the guy who should do it, but why should it be the guy? Why not the girl?
Well, and it's so funny. We have this conversation. I probably have this conversation every month. Let's be honest. And I really believe that there's not a right or wrong answer. Who wrote these rules? Wasn't me. Wasn't you.
Question.
Wasn't anybody in this society. Like, it's probably people that are dead. Like, honestly. So for me, it's like, you have to make your own playbook. We all make our own playbook in our lives. So if you want to sit and you want a guy to come after you, that is fine. But if you really want to go after him, that is fine too. I don't think, we don't put rule books in place about going after the jobs that we want, trying to get the body that we want, making the decisions on how we spend our money. So why are we treating the dating world different? It's the exact same thing. And I have a couple of friends, we're all trying to date. And one of the things we always say is like, before you get in the car to meet someone or before your date picks you up, you have to talk about yourself very positively before he picks you up. And you have to say like, here's the stuff that I bring to the table. And a lot of people don't do that before dates because they're just so nervous, like point blank, let's be real here. Everybody's nervous about first dates. But I always just say like, you have to remind yourself what you bring to the table. And if he's not going to like that, and if he's not even going to like that you're reaching out first, well, he's not the guy for you. I hate to say it, but like, who doesn't like, that's your personality at the end of the day. Like, you have to own it and be proud of it. Every other aspect of our lives, we're proud of it. So why aren't we proud about it when it comes to the dating aspect? That's what I would say.
I think to myself, okay, so it's out of my nature to be the one to ask a guy out. That isn't part of my nature. So I wonder then if I step out of my nature, I should just do it, by the way. I should just do it just for the heck of doing it and see how it feels.
Well, and I look at it too, like, okay, so when we start a new business or we start something new, we always ask ourselves like, well, what if I fail? And it's like, well, what if I flourish? What if I flat? Same thing. Use that same reference for yourself of like, what do I really have to lose? I was fine before this,
Right. What do you have to lose? No, I just wonder about the psychology of it. For me, for example, let's say I approach somebody and they're like, yeah, great, cool. I'm interested. Let's go out on a date. Did I now set the precedence for taking the lead on everything? That's my question.
Yeah. So the question, so I'll answer that for you. It's really about the expectation that you set of saying like, yeah, like I'm glad that I was able to reach out, but like, I hope that this is a two-way communication. Like this is like, I hope that you want to reach out to me, have that conversation. We expect it with friends, don't we? Right. We expect that two-way communication. We expect it with other people. So why are we sitting back and not expecting that with a partner?
Well, it makes me wonder,
Yeah,
no, it just makes me wonder, like, is it my personality or is it part of my programming?
Or are you scared?
I wouldn't, well, maybe because
I don't know.
True, because I've never done it before. So maybe it is a confidence thing. Maybe it is, I'm scared.
Like you're conditioned that if you do something, that's how it's going to be set. And it's like, well, we've changed and evolved as humans for how many years? Like we've never stayed the same. So why would you have this stay the same? Right. At the end of the day, like I just am really big on set your expectations within the first couple of dates, because if you don't set them then 6 months later and you want to change, you've already set the standard. So you have that choice,
True. Yeah, true.
You have the fresh start. I always look back at past relationships and I think like, oh man, if I would have done this, if I would have had more confidence, if I would have stood up for myself. So now it's like you have to treat the new person as, okay, I learned all of these things. What am I going to take to this date and this person to be a better human and get what I want out of it?
Right.
We're so scared of rejection. I mean, for the most time, it's rejection. We're scared of rejection, or we're scared that we're going to settle. Point blank. I think that those are two things, but it all comes down to that confidence piece. And, this is where the women empowerment, the cheerleaders come in of saying, no, you set those expectations. You set the communication. You believe in yourself and your self-worth and what you bring to the table. So this is my advice. Go after it, girlfriend.
I love that advice. Great advice. So how does somebody start? Let's say they're at the very bottom of the confidence barometer. Okay. They have no confidence. Let's say they feel badly about themselves for whatever reason, whether it's going for a job, maybe they don't feel qualified, going after a guy or a girl or whomever they're interested in. And they just don't know where to start. Is there like a fake it till you make it kind of a technique or strategy, or where would you recommend somebody start?
Yeah. So I always tell everybody that you need to sit down and you need to reflect. But what I really always say to people, what you need to reflect on is what aspects of your life don't you have confidence in and what's bringing you down. So a lot of people don't even realize that sometimes it's because they're in a job that they don't even like. So then they're lacking confidence in other areas of their lives. Sometimes it means that you have no support system. And it's because you're surrounded by people in your life that you have chosen to be around, but you let them continue to bring you down. So you're struggling with your confidence, but you're not looking at like who you're surrounding yourself with. So it's different areas like that. It's your passion, it's your friends and your family. And then it's really about how are you talking to yourself? Are you talking highly to yourself? And those all sound like super simple things, but it's actually really hard for people to get started. So a lot of times I just tell people, like, I have the most magical thing you can do for yourself is sit down for 30 minutes and tell yourself, like, what is actually the thing that's bringing me down? Why don't I have confidence? And yeah, so there's probably a lot of things from our past that might come up, but really it's about right now. Like, is it the job that I'm in? Am I following the dreams that I want? Am I unhealthy? Maybe you're just so not happy with your body that it's trickling into everything else. And a lot of times it's really comes down to, that negative self-talk we do to ourselves. It's a support system. And, we both shared that this is a journey. This is a confidence journey. So like, I have those things in my life and I still struggle, but Lisa 10 years ago was in a very different place than where I'm at right now. And so while I'm still working on it, I had to remove a lot of things in my life that were not bringing me happiness in order to get here. And so that would be my biggest thing, is to have that reflection, and then make a game plan. Pick one thing. Okay, I'm talking negative to myself. What can I do for literally 3 minutes a day? 3 minutes a day, not even. You can do affirmations. Maybe you're surrounding yourself with people that treat you like crap. Well, maybe you just start hanging out, finding new friends, or joining a club, or getting out of your comfort zone and having maybe go sit at a coffee shop by yourself. Like, there's a variety of different ways depending on someone's comfort level. And then slowly moving away from those people who are not supporting you, or have the conversation. Hey, you're not supporting me. Like, I love you as a person, but this is what I need out of the relationship. And if you can't give that to me, then I do need a little bit of a break. While all of this is super hard, it is a life changer. And I'm not even going to say a game changer. It is a life-changing thing that you can do for yourself by just starting right now.
You are so right. It is a life changer. I had a situation where I had somebody I knew from high school. I'd say we knew each other from 16 to 18. And we had fun. We got in some trouble. We had those teenage moments, boys and all of that. And then I left the country. I got married, had my son. I was over in the Netherlands, came back, moved across the country from where she lived. But we got back in touch again. We probably talked a couple times a year at that point. But we had, what we had when we hung out together was a different energy than when we were apart. And so every time I talked to her on the phone, I just felt that she was trying to drag me down, put me down, not support me. And I just felt icky. I'd hang up the phone with her and I'm just like, I don't feel good about myself. I'd start to question everything about myself. And that is an indication to me that that's a friend that just not, at that point, just started to click to me. I was like, why am I continuing this friendship? Now I could have a conversation with her, which is normally what I do in a case where I need to confront something. If it's somebody that I really wanted to keep in my life, but I thought to myself, I could have this conversation with her, but she's not capable of being any other way. She and I are moved on. We're in different places in our life. And so I have to decide, how do I feel about not talking to her anymore? Just because I just don't want to be around that energy. I need to feel more confident. I need to feel better about myself. And so I just, in my mind, kind of cut her off, and it felt really good. And so I was like, yeah, I think I'm happy keeping the distance. In fact, yeah. So you were going to say something?
Well, I was going to say, one of the biggest things is, as you realized, it didn't happen overnight. So you realized it, but you still hung out with her. You still weren't really sure. That is normal to anybody listening. Because when I say okay, see your support system, that type of thing. I'm not saying it's going to happen overnight. So nothing happens overnight in the world of confidence and self-love. But I say that, and I think that that's such a great example, because so many times it takes us a while to realize, I call them energy drainers. Things in our lives that are negative energy drainers. And when we're done with that, we feel like crap, we aren't happy. And then the next day it trickles into it. And it's back to the me, we, us. When me is struggling, then those around me are going to struggle. And then my community and those far away are going to struggle. That's the exact same thing when you hang out with energy drainers. So I know not all the time it's easy to avoid, but for your instance specifically, it is. It
Yeah.
was after time. And so it's such a hard thing. I had to let go of some really, really people that impacted my 20s. I really did. But man, do I miss them? No.
No. No. And that's the thing, you know, we have to keep in mind, we could stay connected with people that we know because we have a history with them. And then we start to, and then this guilt comes in, like I talk about this a lot, about self-sacrificing yourself for not so you don't make anyone else feel uncomfortable or feel badly. And you do it at your own expense. But real self-love is you put yourself first. You have to be your number one priority. And if somebody isn't adding to my life and they're taking away from my life and they're making me feel bad, then you have to pay attention to that feeling in your body and go with that, because you have to be your number one priority. There's no, it's feeling bad to keep somebody else from feeling uncomfortable is not serving you, and thus will hold you back from being your best in life, is what I say.
Totally.
That was a great conversation, by the way. I love that, because that is something I think a lot of us, we tend to look externally for that validation. And in doing so, we're looking for our friends maybe to build us up. And when they don't, we go, what can we do to fix ourselves? How can we change ourselves to get our friends to give us what we're looking for? Right? Do you see that a lot in what you do?
It's not just with friends. Like, you're like opening a whole nother conversation, which I kind of like. It's with work. It's with friendship. It's with dating. It's all of that stuff. We always want to change to fit someone else's mold. And guess what? Are we ever happy? No.
Yeah. Nope. It's when we keep trying. Actually, what that does is that forces us to become who we're not. Because we think, okay, right? We're constantly trying to morph and mold to what someone else is going to approve of. And as a result, we get further and further away from our true selves. And that will eat away at your confidence, because if you're not confident in who this person is, because it's not you, then
you're going to look back. Yeah. And you're going to look back and be like, when you finally start to decide, like, you've hit the bottom of the bottom, that's when you're going to want to make the change. But you're going to be so far that it's going to be twice the amount of work. I always say still do it, but it is going to be a lot more work if you don't just start now and start believing in yourself. And so that's why the tools that I said, like, is having that reflection and having that first conversation with yourself is so important.
Absolutely. It was just such a soul connection when my partner Amber and I met you and got to learn more about what you guys are up to and how you're growing and how you're spreading the message of self-love and confidence. And, I have to say, if I had gotten that message when I was a teen or a young adult, I'd be in a much different place than I am today. It's just getting that information and the knowledge and the tools and the programming early.
Totally. Yes. And that's the biggest thing, is we want to help everybody. And, the cool thing is we've had kids that were in our youth stuff, now young adults ready to take more programs. So that's the exciting thing. And to your point, we all need it. And it's never too late to start.
Absolutely. Lisa, thank you so much for coming on the show today. It was really such a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you, guys. I love talking everything about confidence. It was fantastic. So thank you, Jenna, for having me.
My pleasure. You are awesome. And for those of you who don't know, Lisa and Selflove Beauty is also the charity partner of my company, Tiger Feather, that I co-founded with my partner, Amber Love. When Amber and I stumbled upon Selflove Beauty and got connected with Lisa Thompson, we were blown away by their magical mission. It was so aligned with us and our purpose. And as you know, I'm all about self-love. And so this really seemed like the perfect fit. Where my audience tends to be more adult, Lisa and her team are reaching teens and young adults with this really, really important, empowering programming of confidence and self-love. So it really was the perfect fit for us. And we're really excited to be supporting them in their efforts. So if you want to learn a little bit more about Tiger Feather, you can visit our website at shoptigerfeather.com. Thank you so much for tuning in today, and we'll see you next time.